What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Potential OC replacements for the New Orleans Saints. I don't really care too much about the names quite yet. Like, we can get into names as time goes on. The Saints have requested 3 coaches to interview. They want to interview Bengals quarterback coach Tom Pitcher, who, look, I mean, Jake Browning and Joe Burrow, both pretty good. They want to interview Rams quarterback coach Zach Robinson and the Seahawks OC Shane Waldron. And, you know, we can dive into those names and see what we feel about them. I think the more interesting thing is kind of, Jake, how it's going to be somewhat difficult to attract talent at that position right now, given the kind of current stench of death hanging around Dennis Allen, right? Like, it's not hard to surmise that next year is a make or break year for this current regime. And so if you are a big-time OC candidate, is this where you choose to take your shot? It doesn't mean it can't work. I'm just saying I think the Saints are going to have to take a shot at someone. They're not necessarily going to get someone who a bunch of other teams want as well, because why would this be a more attractive landing spot than others? I mean, you do have weapons, to be fair. I guess you do have a lot of young weapons to work with, and you should think that you should be able to have success with Derek Carr. I mean, I guess old boy's doing it with Geno Smith out there in Seattle, so it's not all negative. I just mean you got to be willing to risk the idea that you could come down here for 1 year, and if it doesn't go right, then you could be back on the road.
It's a good point, and some of the different names you threw out there. By the way, you're really getting like up there when like Zach Robinson was drafted 2 years after me into the NFL, and now he's like in a position where he's potentially going to be an OC. He was passing game coordinator for the Rams as well, not just quarterback's coach. He's only known the Rams. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the only. So that, you could look at that however you want to. It could be a positive to get away, negative, whatever.
I could see the positivity there for sure. I mean, we've said we wanted to bring the Saints into the modern era from a philosophy standpoint. Well, Sean McVay's been at the fore of the modern era, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And even taking a bad roster this year and being able, I say a bad roster on paper, and then being able to go out there and be highly competitive and almost win a playoff game where you're playing against one of the best teams in the NFL. So, again, like we'll get into the names once maybe it gets a little bit closer, but that's just one of the names. And he was with Sean McVay for the last, 4 years. So, somebody that I would think is certainly learned a lot under that offensive staff.
Kind of exciting.
He started as an assistant quarterback coach, went to receivers coach, and then went back to quarterbacks, and then this year, as I mentioned, pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. So,
okay. I'd be interested to see if what he could get out of Derek Carr. I mean, making Derek Carr is the key to all of this. You're invested. You're pot committed at this point. Like, it is, if everybody wants to retain their job and you want to win, that is what you have to make work. So you have to try to find the guy that you think can most unlock that.
I think you also have to find someone with a personality to know that the head coach is a defensive head coach, and sometimes that brings a little bit more conservative game plan. And whoever you bring in, like I'm sure Pete Carmichael had the ability to kind of do whatever he wanted because him and Dennis Allen coached together. They were, assistant coaches together. He had been there so long. You just have to make sure if you're bringing in somebody that's 36, 37 years old, that you allow them to be them and be basically the head coach of the offense, and you don't try to meddle and suggest. And what is it you always say about Coach Miles when you get on the headset?
Oh, he used to say things like, if it were me, I'd run it here. Which, like, what are you saying, dude? I mean, it's not you, but you're telling me to do this. Like, come on, let's not beat around the bush. At least do me the favor of just saying run it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like again, don't try to. Let's not pretend like what's like this is anything but what it is. So
honestly, I would if I'm a Saints fan, I would want somebody with a resume that could stand up and challenge Dennis Allen a little bit. I'm not saying challenge him like, go in there and argue with him. I'm talking about just challenge his thought process and is like, oh man, okay, I know this guy knows what he's doing. He's a veteran guy. He's an alpha. I'm going to let him be the head coach of the offense.
Yeah.
If you bring in a young guy, maybe that can mess up the dynamic. It can be exciting as well. Don't get me wrong. I don't think there's one way to do this, but just defensive head coaches, they are a little bit different 95% of the time.
I mean, yeah, why did he – yes. Go look at the decisions that he's made offensively. I mean, if you look at something like Dalton and Winston, a lot of that was about Dalton was going to play very mistake-free, solid football, where Winston's volatility didn't sound like, no, I can't handle that. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.